Henry Playhouse presents Hearts and Hands. Hearts and Hands is the delightful result of the time when O. Henry reached into a special little corner where he kept stored his vast fund of rich, sparkling nonsense. The hero of this O. Henry story is Reginald Easton.
Reginald, I'm so glad to see you. I've tried everywhere to reach you. I must talk to you privately.
I'd like you to meet a very dear friend of mine. Miss Fairchild, may I present... by the way, what is your name?
Horton. How do you do, miss?
How do you do? I'm sure Mr. Horton wouldn't mind if you tore yourself away for a little while.
I hardly think so. Horton has an incorrigible affinity for his traveling companions.
That's right, ma'am. I can get awfully attached to guys like Easton here.
But I must talk to you.
Oh, you can talk in front of Horton. We have no secrets from each other. We're practically one.
Can't you understand that what I have to say can be of no possible interest to Mr. Horton?
I'll think about it, Miss Fairchild.
I'll give you until I come back from the diner. After that, I'm liable to forget I'm a lady.
Ah, lovely girl. Marvelous family. You might have heard of her father, Mercedes Fairchild. He was the inventor of money.
Well, how do you come to know someone like that?
My dear Horton, if you'd risen above the bourgeois element, you'd have cut your socialite teeth on the name Easton.
Garfield Easton?
Garfield Easton was my father.
That figures. So you're just a chip off the old block, aren't you, son?
To the extent that we've each excelled in our chosen professions, yes. But beyond that, apart from charm, good looks, and superb manners, the resemblance ends.
Aren't you forgetting something? Seems to me there's another resemblance.
Like what?
Like this.
At the risk of seeming ungrateful, Uncle O. Henry, how could you assume I'd have the slightest interest in a story of this nature?
Well, I thought a story like this would make an interesting change of pace for you.
But handcuffs. What possible identification would I have with handcuffs? To say nothing of crooks.
Well, now, bear with me, Hermitage. It really gets better as it goes along.
Very well. You may continue.
Thank you. As I said, Reginald was suave, cultured, handsome. And what an operator. Let me tell you about the night he and his guardian crashed the Fairchild party.
I'm so glad you could come. And your charming wife. Delighted to see you both. Oh, Mr. Besançon. Madame? You know my daughter, of course.
I wonder what the rich people are doing tonight.
You may be sure they're not here.
Not very good, is it? No, I can't help feeling a little sorry for the run-of-the-mill wealthy. They should have so little in a world of such plenty.
I wish you wouldn't concern yourself with misfortune, Reggie. If a man is incapable of becoming a millionaire, he should seek his rewards elsewhere. Perhaps he can go to work.
Ah, Mrs. Van Truesdale, how nice to see you.
An atrocity like that, wearing an original Juvenile. 6.5 carat, 3-point.
How can you tell from this distance?
A quality that separates genius from mediocrity. Your father could have given you an account on the baguettes.
His was a rare talent, wasn't it?
The rarest in the world. Once I was exposed to it, I decided to quit. Second best was the blow my pride could never withstand.
Oh, he thought a great deal of you, Carter.
Yes, when he died, I lost the dearest friend I ever had. That's why I agreed to rear you, my boy. I saw a lot of him in you.
What did happen to him finally? I've always wondered.
Well, suffice is to say, he had your tenderness. That was his failing. I hope it'll never be yours.
Oh, you may be sure it won't. Now, I think in the interest of good taste, I should pay my respects, huh?
I agree. Meantime, I'll take a look at the library.
No, you know, I still think it was the 3 o'clock at Belmont. I think so. What?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I don't seem able to recall the name.
Easton, Reginald Easton. We're neighbors.
Oh, I wasn't aware that we had any neighbors.
Oh, yes, I live right next door.
Next door is 7 miles from here.
7 miles. Quite a yard you have.
Perhaps Mr. Easton would like some refreshment before he leaves.
I've already partaken, thanks. Magnificent food. Your canopies might well mark a colossal renaissance for the long-repressed sardine.
Possibly you would like to convey your felicitations to the cook, Mr. Easton. I'm sure this is the first time she's ever been identified with the Renaissance movement.
And now, if you will excuse us, we must join our guests. Come, my dear.
Good night, Mr. Easton.
Oh, Miss Fairchild, I'm told that you have the most beautiful gardens in Long Island. This may be my last opportunity to see them. Please, just the gardens.
All right.
I've never seen anything so lovely.
You should see it in the dead of winter.
Well, such beauty could hardly be seasonal.
I was talking about the garden.
I wasn't.
Why did you come here tonight?
Oh, I'm a sucker for parties. Some people follow fire wagons, others rush to the scene of an accident. My taste is somewhat less flamboyant. Champagne, caviar.
And beautiful gardens.
Only under suitable conditions.
Am I a suitable condition, Mr. Easton?
The way you look tonight, conditions should never change.
Are you always so glib with your compliments, Mr. Easton?
Why don't you try calling me Reginald?
All right. Are you always so glib with your compliments, Reginald?
Miss Fairchild, I'm a very objective person. Tonight, your moonlight is lovely. The setting is perfect, and you're very beautiful. Tomorrow morning, you may look like something the cat dragged in, but tonight you're very beautiful. You see, no matter how I put it, it still turns out to be a compliment.
Especially that part about tomorrow morning.
Well, I won't know about that until tomorrow morning.
And what's going to happen tomorrow morning?
Breakfast, 11 o'clock. And please try and be ready on time. I'm absolutely intolerable till I've had my coffee.
You're also very presumptuous, Mr. Easton. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Oh, there you are.
Carter? I think I'm in love.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I might add a little distressing.
What do you mean?
How like your father you are. He fell in love with your mother 20 minutes after he met her. And 20 minutes later.
Yes?
No, it couldn't happen a second time.
Well, what on earth are you talking about?
Some other time. I had a look at the library, left wall, behind a painting of the oil fields. Wait until you see the gusher that's waiting for you.
Do you think it's wise now that I've decided to marry his daughter?
Oh, I wouldn't let that worry me if I were you. Now, it's just possible that somewhere in the world there's a girl who can resist your charm. It's a wild speculation, of course. But Leora Fairchild could be that girl.
All right, Carter. I'll accede to your infallible wisdom. See you here in 10 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking for someone.
Reginald?
Why, yes.
He'll be back shortly. I'm looking for him, too.
Would you give him a message for me, please?
Certainly.
Would you tell him 11 o'clock tomorrow morning will be fine?
There must be one somewhere in the world.
Are you looking for something, Mr. Easton?
Before I go on with the story, Hermitage, I'd like to get your reaction.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Will you join me?
No, thank you. I rarely indulge.
You see, Uncle O. Henry, a story of this type is not my cup of tea. I've had no traffic with crooks, nor is it my intention ever to have any.
But you're only 10. As you grow older, you'll come in contact with all kinds of people, including crooks. You better be prepared to cope with them.
You don't think I'm sufficiently prepared now?
No, I don't. As long as you stick to Freud, higher mathematics, and the Schopenhauers, you're all right. But put you up against a good horse thief and you're a dead pigeon.
Very well. Now to get back to the story. Well, once Carter had the jewels out of the safe, why didn't he just hand them over to Reginald?
Carter at one time considered himself the most accomplished thief in the world. But when he encountered Reginald's father, he knew he had met a superior. And never from that day to this has he attempted a theft.
So that makes him sort of a backfield coach for Reginald.
Yes. He saw in Reginald's father's genius for crime. And he feels that through Reginald, he'll be able to make a real contribution to the world of art. Shall I continue my story?
By all means.
Well, for the longest moment in his life, he stood staring into that beam of light, not knowing what the next instant would hold and silently praying there would be a next instant.
I repeat, Mr. Easton, are you looking for something?
I was, yes. But you seem to have taken the play away from me.
Somebody seems to have taken the play away from both of us.
Do you make a habit of robbing yourself, Mr. Fairchild?
Aren't you being a little ridiculous?
Thievery is a learned profession. As in any other profession, there are rigid rules of deportment and procedure. This is the work of an uninspired amateur.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Any thief capable of opening that safe is a learned professional. The pride of a professional dictates an immaculate approach to his work. Does this look like an immaculate approach?
But aren't you ruling out the possibility of a struggle?
You don't look like a man who put up much of a struggle, Mr. Fairchild. Or did I arrive too soon?
Well, all right. I robbed myself. What about it?
But why?
Oh, for the reason people usually rob, money.
With all you have, you need money.
Do you know what a sharp dip in the market can do to someone who's as heavily invested as I am?
Oh, well, what do you plan to do?
Report the jewels stolen. The insurance should give me enough to cover my losses.
Have you any idea what you're letting yourself in for?
Absolutely nothing. Because when the market improves, the jewels will suddenly be found. I shall return the insurance money and all will be well. You know, as I see it, the insurance money is merely a short-term loan, and the market should bounce back in the next 90 days or so.
If you're caught, it'll mean at least 10 years.
Yes, Mr. Easton, but I had no intention of being caught. You see, you're the only one who knows, and with your fingerprints all over the safe, I'm sure that I can rely upon your cooperation.
A crook like you can put crime back 50 years.
Father, I've been looking all over. Father, what happened? Tell me, Father, what happened?
We've been robbed.
Are you all right? Have you any idea who could have done such a thing?
None.
What happened to you?
I ran into trouble.
What kind of trouble?
The safe was empty.
I can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
What's so hard to believe?
That's exactly what happened to your father on his last venture. An empty safe. And then...
And then what?
Oh, boy, you'll have to forget about this girl.
What's the girl got to do with it?
After the incident at the empty safe, your father kept a date with the girl, too. She eventually became your mother. But before that, she had him put in jail.
But why?
The empty safe belonged to her father.
But Reginald was not to be dissuaded from seeing Leora again.
So she kept her breakfast date with him the next morning?
Yes. And although the meeting was fraught with certain misgivings, Reginald soon overcame them. By the time they reached the Fairchild Manor, Leora was quite convinced Reginald could never have been responsible for the theft.
It's a wonderful breakfast.
There's a lot more where that came from.
Now my life is an open book to you. You see me in the soft glow of moonlight and the cold gray light of dawn. Just as I am when the cats drag me in.
I often wondered what cats found to purr about. Now I know.
Tell me more about yourself. What about your parents?
Oh, they've gone. Mother was like you, a vision of grace and loveliness. Father was like me, handsome, sparkling, suave.
Modest.
No. Modesty was never one of our shortcomings. The Eastons were always a fantastically talented family. We were among the first to recognize our genius, and we decided not to keep it from the world.
Reginald, you're incorrigible.
He would have loved Father.
I'm sure of it. What was his profession?
Oh, the same as mine. Father was probably the most respected and revered safecracker in the world. He dealt only with the top echelon of Eastern society. To be robbed by Father was a sign of having arrived. His victims were automatically selected for listing in the social register.
Oh, Reginald, you're absolutely crazy.
Miss Fairchild, I'm Inspector Grange of the New York Police Department. I'd like to ask you a question or two, if I may.
Certainly, Inspector.
When did you first learn that your father was robbed?
There were some very late arrivals at the party. I went to look for my father, and I found him in the library. He had already discovered the theft.
Well, did you see anyone go into or out of the library, outside of your father, of course, at any time during the course of the evening?
No. Except Mr. Easton here. Perhaps Mr. Easton could help you, Inspector. His father is one of the most notorious safecrackers in the whole world.
Yes, I know. Mr. Easton, would you step into the library with me, please?
What for?
Well, just fingerprints. Just routine.
I came as quickly as I could. What seems to be the trouble?
Well, if it isn't Ellsworth Carter.
Yes. Do I know you?
No, but I know you, Mr. Carter. Law detection would still be in its infancy without your brilliant contribution to crime.
Oh, you flatter me, Inspector.
You know this man?
Easton? I should say so. Taught him everything he knows. Reggie, you said on the phone that something was wrong.
Well, yes, quite wrong, Mr. Carter. It seems that your protege's fingerprints match those found on Mr. Fairchild's safe.
I tell you, Inspector, you're making a mistake. The safe was empty when Reggie got into it.
You better quit while you're still ahead, Mr. Carter.
Yes, but don't you
No,
understand?
just a minute, please. You can release that man, Inspector. He didn't steal the jewels. I did.
Now, Mr. Fairchild, don't concern yourself. With good behavior, he's going to be out in just a few short years.
But it's true. You've got to believe me, Inspector. You're arresting an innocent man.
Mr. Fairchild, for your information, a man cannot steal that which belongs to him.
No, but I was going to report the loss to the insurance company, and if that isn't stealing, what is?
Thanks, Mr. Fairchild, but it's no use. We can't fool the law. I'm ready, Inspector.
Inspector, would you mind if I had a few minutes alone with Mr. Easton?
Well, if you're going to ask him if he still has the jewels, you're just going to be wasting your time. Knowing his family tree, I'd say that they're already in the hands of an expert diamond cutter. Mr. Fairchild, no police force in the world has ever recovered a gem that's been stolen by an Easton.
Well, thanks, Inspector. Thanks very much.
Well, nevertheless, I'd still like to talk to Mr. Easton.
Well, all right, but I still say that you're just wasting your time.
Thank you, Inspector. Mr. Easton? I never really expected this to happen.
Amateurs. I can't stand them. Mr. Fairchild, do you mind if what you have to talk about is kept private?
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, old man. I didn't mean to embarrass you.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Fairchild. Now, what is it you wish to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to say that I think everything's going to be all right.
Tell me more.
Well, supposing I refuse to press charges against you.
Will you also refuse to accept the insurance check?
Oh, no, of course not. That would be defeating my entire purpose.
Mr. Fairchild, you're making it extremely difficult for me to accept your amateur status.
Now, why do you say that?
What would happen to me if, without any knowledge or background, I invaded your world of finance? Say I decided to corner the entire stock exchange.
Well, in that case, my dear fellow, we should simply cut you up in little pieces and feed you to your creditors.
Exactly, and I don't want that to happen to you. Once the insurance company settles your claim, the matter of pressing charges will be out of your hands.
Yes, but supposing I were to intervene.
Oh, please don't. With normal good luck, I should be out in 2 years. But if you persist in coming to my aid, I may end up with anything from 10 years to life. Do I make myself clear?
Oh, yes, you make yourself clear. You mean, in other words, that if I were to help you, I might put a noose around your neck?
Precisely. Mr. Fairchild, I'm not a man given to bluntness, but there is a vast difference between 2 years and a possible term of 10 years. Right?
Right. And let me congratulate you upon your insight. One more thing, Mr. Easton. Are you a Yale man?
No, but don't hold that against me.
Oh, no, of course not. Well, regardless of your school, you're a gentleman.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Fairchild.
Not at all.
I just couldn't believe that my father could do such a thing. Then he showed me the jewels. Not a single one was missing. Oh, Reggie, I'm terribly sorry about everything. I was on my way to Leavenworth to beg your forgiveness.
Consider yourself forgiven.
What's the matter, darling?
I was just wondering, since your father confessed to the crime, why am I on my way to Leavenworth?
Oh, he didn't confess to anyone but me. Right after that, he agreed to our marriage.
He did? He did?
Yes. He thought you might like to show your appreciation by taking the rap.
Got a wire at the last station. You're off the hook.
What happened?
Fairchild found the jewels. They were in the house all the time. He's returning the money to an insurance company.
Do you think my father discovered he had a conscience after all?
No, darling. I imagine the stock market bounced back faster than he anticipated.
So our story comes to an end. Reginald and Leora were married.
Let me guess. And lived happily ever after.
Isn't it about time for you to be in bed, young man?
I bet you haven't even done your homework yet.
I'll do that during breakfast.
It's my fault. I've been telling him a story.
Yes, you should have heard the monstrosity Uncle O. Henry whipped up this time.
Oh, what kind of a story?
You wouldn't be interested, Father. It covers an area of society completely foreign to you. Crooks.
Hermitage, I'd like a few words with your Uncle O. Henry. Would you excuse us for a moment?
Gladly.
Well, told him the story just as you asked. Changing names, of course.
And?
Well, Bob, this might hand you a jolt. Your son is never going to be a crook. The pattern is finally broken.